We partner with those manufacturers that specifically make sheets and towels for those brands, right? We share the same standards. We share the same QA process that were put in place to inspect their products.
It's a little bit funny because, well, if you remember when we went to the site, right, it'd be like we're watching the manufacturing process, and they'll be like, okay, well, your stuff is coming up, and we're like just looking at like some Marriott, just coming up on the line.
Welcome back to our show, No Sheets Given, where William and I will give our hottest takes on the hospitality industry 100% unfiltered, bringing you the funniest, most critically acclaimed topics in the industry, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's always going to be a fun time. Yeah. It's good. I'm really excited to hear today's topic.
So today's topic, you're going to like this one. Everyone's broke.
Oh.
And I want to explain why this is relevant to the industry. So the first one we're going to talk about is titled "Hotel Prices Are Just Crazy Now."
Yeah. Okay, I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious what they're going to say about this one. This is very relatable.
Yeah, because we travel a few times a year and to different countries, right? So we can kind of have an idea of how much the prices are now compared to what they were before, and also in different regions as well. And let me tell you, they have all increased.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which region, doesn't matter if you go to Asia, Europe, North America, South America, they have all gone more expensive now.
Yeah, I would say like if people are traveling there, the price went up, but as it should some places, but some places it don't really make sense. Like if you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about why that is.
Yeah.
Why are hotel prices just so crazy now, especially after COVID. So let's dive right into it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So first thread that we found is, I think this was posted a little while ago, but it's basically a couple traveling to, I think, Europe. So it says, isn't me or hotel prices have gone up significantly in recent years, especially in Europe and North America? I understand that everything is more expensive now, but for Christ's sake, how can people go to Rome now without being crazy rich? And, Rome is a popular destination. It'll go deeper into that. I have enough money to travel, but some countries are just completely off my list for now, for this season, for this reason alone. I can't seem to find anything in Barcelona, Rome, or Berlin that's not worth of $200 for a terrible, sketchy room.
Yep.
That's 200 American dollars. It's sad that for some young people, they're not able to afford backpacking in Europe anymore, like they were able to 10 years ago, right? It seems impossible nowadays to go backpacking without couch surfing. And couch surfing nowadays, you don't really do that anymore just because how crazy people are, right?
Yeah.
By the way, they're looking on price. They're looking at prices on the usual booking platforms and things like that, and they're just not able to find cheaper or lower prices. So it's saying that tourism-heavy places are just not affordable anymore, right? Do you agree?
Yeah. I would say I want to say it's not affordable, but let's say maybe what it's almost like you hear the saying like yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yeah.
It's like let's say I went somewhere and then you want to go to the same spot this year. The price differentiated. And I experienced that when I went to Europe, when I went to Japan. I looked at like the previous place I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
Even by the time I went to Japan, we wanted to add on an extra day at the place we stayed.
The price is different.
The price for one extra day was half the stay that we were paying.
And that's the thing, right? Like people always adjust their prices, and coming from the vacation rental world, like we used to manage vacation rentals, and it was basically taught, or it was a common practice that when it gets closer to today, let's say you have empty rooms today, instead of dropping the prices, sometimes you would actually increase the price for those last minute bookings. Let's say guests from Hotel A they got a cancellation, right? Or the hotel suddenly are not able to accommodate them anymore. They walked down the block and found us. Now we have an opportunity to charge them even more than what they had booked before, right? Booked in advance, because now that it's between me or sleeping on the street.
Yeah,
right.
And I think it's like it works. That's specifically true when it's like on a weekend. I would say for sure.
Yeah,
You're gonna experience stuff like that.
Yeah, and it goes beyond even last minute, right? You have seasonality comes into play depending on what season you travel. And let's say, for example, in the summer from May until September, most places in the northern hemisphere, which is like 70% of the world, are going to be in peak season for travel. So if you travel within those times, you're gonna have to pay more versus if you travel in the winter.
Well, and another part that people don't talk about, and we probably we can talk to, is about also occupancy. When you're booking really far in advance, it's gonna be more expensive. When you're booking really close, it's gonna be expensive. Yeah. It's when you're in that Goldilocks zone where they need to actually build up their occupancy so they can feel more comfortable charging more.
Yeah.
So that's what most likely happened to me in my situation. I booked probably just about 8 months in advance. They didn't have anything for that month, and they were like, well, we need to get to at least 50% before we can go to our regular charging schedule. So they put these deals out there. I go by. Then I want to add one extra day. They're like, no, you can pay for it.
Exactly. And, hotels and airlines do this all the time,
all
right?
The time.
And a quick tip, a pro tip for you guys is that if you guys are booking, especially on short-term rental platforms, is that these are just independent operators, right?
That's true.
That own a basement, that own a condo or a house, things like that. They're not, I don't want to use the word that they're not professional, but they're newer to the game, and sometimes they slip up. Sometimes they are not looking at their calendars as closely as they can or should be, and they mess up the pricing. And sometimes you'll get really, really good deals just because they stacked their discounts on top of each other. You didn't hear this from me.
Yeah, Bing didn't want to say it, but I'm like, we're talking from self-experience here.
Yeah.
So
make sure you go into incognito mode when you do this so it doesn't catch back to you.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a very good tip. Yeah, especially if you look ahead where people aren't thinking about it. Like, let's say
2 or 3 years.
Like, or like 2-3 years, or if they're multi-platform. Yeah. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Exactly.
I won't say no more. I don't want all my tips
you don't want to get in trouble either.
Yeah,
these hosts out there listening to this, they're probably scratching their head.
Yeah. I would check all 3 platforms. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
All 3 platforms.
But let's dive deeper into this. Back it up with some data, right? So why is this happening? Why are hotel prices all of a sudden seem more expensive, right? So I did some research. People always say that travel has surged post-COVID, right? A lot of people are traveling now because they weren't able to during COVID, and people are doing comparison between now and pre-COVID. Some people have said that people are traveling more now compared to prior to COVID, but actual data suggested that it's actually we're still recovering to the old volume, right? We're almost there. I think we're 99% there, but we're not exceeding it. However, the reason why it's more expensive, it seemed like, there's a huge demand for it, is because the prices have gone up since, with inflation. Everybody knew what happened during COVID. Everything has gotten more expensive. So it just seems like that is in a higher demand, because when people think of supply and demand, they're like, a lot of people are traveling now. Hotels are booked up. I can't get a room. That's why they're expensive. But part of the reason is because generally prices have gone up on everything else, right? Labor, material, food costs, and things like that have caused hotel prices to rise.
And then also I would say to another thing that can contribute to this is that some places, I think post-COVID, who relied on tourism, were really trying to get people to come over. So I remember I got some really good flight deals at the time where I wanted to go to Asia or overseas. It was only $500, like post-COVID. So I think, people really pushed on bringing people over, which really popularized some locations where like their tourism numbers really bounced back really quick. And, as you probably may or may not know, there's like, in some countries, they're getting a lot of backlash for the amount of tourists because, you know, it's also inflating their economy and they're not able to pay. And
like the
stuff
locals
like
are now struggling to pay these prices that are inflated because of tourism, right? And we see this happen a lot in Europe where they're trying to protect the domestic market, and but it's actually having an adverse effect on their economy. Another thing why hotels are more expensive now is because of labor.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
In Canada, it's still very hard to get people to work in hotels, especially in the housekeeping department. We were speaking to some people in BC who he told me that the cost of a housekeeper per hour is actually $30 or more just to get someone to work that job, right? So if you can imagine, if someone has to pay, if you have to pay $30 for a housekeeper, wouldn't you want to recuperate some of that cost in your room rate? It's only fair, right? If you have to pay more for something, you're going to charge more for something.
Yep.
So, and that same thing goes to beyond labor too. It goes to how much your supplies are going to be, right? When you look at the different line items that make up the cost of a room, there are many things like just soap, your towels, your bed sheets, and things like that. They're all going to add up because of the increase in prices. And consumers, unfortunately, are paying the price.
Yeah, like I think sometimes one thing that, you know, sometimes it's hard for people to remember is that when we make these changes, it could be either wage increases or, you know, there's like an increase of tariffs for importing something, you know, I don't know if I'm pulling the curtain back, but most of the times, most companies will pass on the cost to us.
Yeah.
Right?
As a consumer.
As a consumer, yeah. So is it fair? You know, unfortunately, no, but like then they're going to say it's subjective, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the situation is most of the time we're going to end up paying for it. And I would say you're right. Like having a housekeeper is probably the most direct impact and cost to the room.
Yeah.
Right. If you think about it, especially if they're doing housekeeping every day, they're spending 30 minutes to an hour. You know, you can already see right there, especially when that's just a housekeeper, right? You have technically, though it's marginal, you have the supplies, the front desk, you know, electricity, you name it. It does add up. Obviously, they make money, but if something fluctuates, they're going to say, well, we have to pay so many people, the managers, they're going to just pass on the cost to us, essentially, is what happens.
Exactly. And let's talk about the tariffs for a second because it's such a hot topic around the world. And believe it or not, it does affect the hospitality industry a lot more than you think, just because everything that goes inside a room, right? Let's talk about our products, for example, linens. Right. In Canada, we don't really produce cotton.
No.
You know, because we don't have the climate for it. We have a very harsh winter here. And then in BC, there's not enough like farmland to be converted into cotton fields and things like that. You do have a huge supply of cotton in the United States around the southern border where climates are warmer. The soil is more suitable for that. But a majority of our cotton comes from United States, India, and China.
Yep.
Right? So when you put tariffs on these things, yes, the prices of these things are going to naturally go up because, like I said before, distributors will only pass on the cost onto consumers, which in this case would be hotels.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And that's another reason why you would see the price increase in these things.
Yeah, and like it depends on a hotel to hotel, right? Some people have deals with people in the States and they pay the extra tariffs. And, you know, you also have to think about some people want companies to, let's say, source only, I don't know, American, you know, cotton, right? Yeah. But then, you know, similarly, companies like might not source American cotton because you know, it's cotton plus wages of, you know, the States versus cotton plus wages of like somewhere like India, you know, where it's going to fluctuate. So, you know, that's why I feel like, you know, it depends on the hotel group, the hotel chain, you know, how their distribution, like basically how they actually are gaining their stuff in particular.
And we do have manufacturers here in Canada that makes towels, that make sheets and things like that, right? So the tariffs put in place was to protect the domestic market. But when you think about the entire vertical of supplies, right? Like I'm talking about raw materials. To make a towel, you need more than just machines, right? You need the raw material to be imported into Canada for someone to make it. We have a lot of manufacturers, actually not a lot.
There's some
manufacturers here in Canada, most of them in Quebec, right? But Quebec companies would have to import these cotton from somewhere. And if they have to, if their input costs more, their output are also going to cost more. Right. So, and the tariffs, it's a tricky situation.
And like I know sometimes people don't want to talk about it or acknowledge it, but even when sometimes you see stuff made in Canada, made in the States, you know, a lot of times, you know, and this is us talking to people who are in the decision seat. You know, so I've talked to people who make these decisions. They will go and they will get the raw materials from another country, and they'll bring it here and they'll make it, and then it's now made in Canada. So, hey, accept that how you would. Are you gonna be able to find out like if the country's doing that or not? Like unless it's a farm, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say, right?
It's not hard to find out actually if you do travel to where the source is. For example, like us, we're just going to talk about this unfiltered anyway. So just like us, we went to the source. You know, we traveled to Japan, we traveled to China to see some of these manufacturers of our sheets and towels, right? And a lot of them actually deal with global brands. You hear Marriott, you hear Hilton, right? Wyndham. They don't produce their own sheets. They contract it out to manufacturer overseas that can make these things for them, right? All they have to do is match the standards, match the product specifications, and have their product tags on them, right? So a lot of these manufacturers, they also make the same thing for other brands too. You might find the same manufacturer makes for both Marriott and Hilton. But the only thing difference is other tags.
And like I would say, the manufacturer, obviously the quality of the manufacturer does play a big part. And like I think that's why even for us, we did a lot of research, had a lot of QA with getting our manufacturer. But some brands, let's say, will only work with a company that's in the States. And, you know, how they counteract it is they might not go to India or China. They would go to South America.
They'll go to Colombia,
like
Venezuela,
because there's less tariffs between that to the States and then the States to Canada. It's really a funny game when you start realizing how these corporations are moving or are conducting business. It's actually really surprising, very intriguing. But like being said, you can find out. It does take a little bit of research, honestly. But I would say most corporations that they're really big, if you don't see if they don't have the facility for that thing, and like they're growing it or making it here, you know,
you best believe they're not.
They're not getting it from here.
They're not. And just to plug ourselves in, right? Like we partner with those manufacturers that specifically make sheets and towels for those brands, right? We share the same standards. We share the same QA process that were put in place to inspect their products. Like our products just pretty much share the same assembly line. Right? But you know, for them, they always try to make their money back. So now they say that, you know, they're this and that, and they're charging you 50% markup to 150% markup.
It's a little bit funny because, you know, well, if you remember when we went to the site, right, it would be like we're watching the manufacturing process, and they'll be like, okay, well, your stuff is coming up, and we're like just looking at like some Marriott, you know, just coming up on the line.
Basically,
right? Like,
you're this person on the solar, right? And the supervisor comes and drops a bag of text. It's like, hey, this needs to go on this batch. When you get to the end, let me know. I'll give you another. I'll give you another set of text that says a different name. But the sheets, the fabrics are the same.
They just do like a changeover to make sure there's no cross.
Yeah, exactly,
you know,
exactly. Yeah, it's an eye-opening thing to see. But just so you know, that's why, and it's part of the reason why everything has gone up in prices is because tariffs. Because these brands are importing things from places like China, India, where they're dealing with tariffs right now. So that brings us to the second topic. We're also going to look at why hotels are so expensive. But this one specifically are going to look at like why are people just traveling outside of North America and the EU now? You know,
Yeah,
we're
good
gonna
point.
look at what are the drivers behind that.
Yeah.
So posted just a couple months ago says, how does middle class America afford to stay in hotels anymore? It seems that every time I need to go out of town for something, even the lower end hotels are like $200 a night. If you make $20 an hour and want to get a basic hotel room for the weekend just for 2 nights, after tax and stuff, you're gonna have to work about 28 hours to pay for it. There's some people in the comments saying that they used to be able to travel when they had vacation time and stuff like that, and they will go and do so. But now, because they can't go anywhere, now they're accumulating vacation days and not taking them because they
Nice.
can't go anywhere now. Back to the point, so like, why is it so expensive to travel in North America?
The expensive is like we were talking about before is I think it comes down to inflation and obviously the cost of like living increasing, right? We have maybe higher wages, inflation, interest rates are higher. Basically, it's harder to get money where it increases the cost for these things for people. And I think objectively, that's what it is, I would say. These companies, like if you're in the middle of nowhere, during COVID, when you talk to a lot of companies, though some people got money, right, it wasn't all enough to cover. So some people went out of business. Some people barely made it by, and they're trying to recover out of the deficit that they come to be in. And then because of that, once, things opened up, basically they are like, well, we need to open up the floodgates and increase the prices. Right. Even for going to a small town, we've experienced it. The rates are no different than being in Calgary.
And I think it's not just with hotel prices, right? Like if you look at air travel, flights are so much more expensive in North America than compared to the EU or Asia, right? Just because you've only, like, if you think about North America itself, it's very isolated from the rest of the world. And basically we play by our own rules here. We only have a few airline companies. In Canada, there are only two, really. If one goes on strike, you only have one. So supply and demand plays a big part, right? If you only have a few options, they can charge whatever they want. If that's the only transportation option that you have, you're going to have to bite the bullet.
Well, it's funny that because the other option, because there are other ones like, Flare. I think Swoop is gone, right? So it's just Flare now.
It's just Flare, Flare. But like they're in deep trouble too, I think, with the debt and stuff.
They all shrinkflated, meaning like now I think if you take like the budget flight, you don't even get a carry-on no more.
No, exactly. And like we'll dive into that a bit further. You don't see that type of things happening in places like Asia. Like I always get to bring my carry-on.
Even in Europe.
With the most basic fare. But in North America, like they do things like that. They do things like unbundling. I saw a video on it the other day where it's basically a smarter way for them to make more money. And to trick you into thinking that you're actually saving more money, not paying for the things you don't need.
Well, I think WestJet was probably the proponent, someone who did it recently, right? Where their new budget line basically does not have anything. Like you can only carry a backpack on the plane. And, before it used to be like with a carry-on, but they kind of guised it like as if like, we're keeping prices low.
No. If you compare it, I'm pretty sure you're paying more still. But back to the point is, I think that's one of the drivers that people are traveling outside of North America and the EU. I know for me, most recently, me and my wife planned a trip. It was between going to Mexico or going somewhere else, right? So we looked at the prices. If we both want to go to all-inclusive resort, right, we want to be able to bring our luggage with us. We want direct flight. The prices were equivalent to, like, spending just 4 days there was equivalent to spending 8 days in South Korea. That's with hotels and flights to South Korea. And the food prices there are cheap. So, like, I can't imagine paying that much more. And comparatively, the food are going to be made fresh. I can go wherever I want instead of just eating at the hotel. So comparatively, it's much, much cheaper to travel outside of North America, take my money somewhere else, and enjoy myself.
Well, like even to give you a quick comparison, I went to Texas recently. The flights would have been about $700 for both my wife and I, maybe $800 for my wife and I, and then accommodation and this for 2 days, 3 days. Accommodation was another, let's say $300.
Yeah.
Right, so we're already at 1,100, and then between food, transportation, car rental, because we needed to go to the venue, I think it must have came to about $1,400, about $700 for a 2 to 3 day trip, right? And we're talking about
That's in USD, right?
This is US, right? So, but just to give you a comparison, if you wanted to go to maybe Japan, because I saw flight deals to Japan recently.
Yeah.
For flights in Canadians, $1,200. If you go stay at somewhere for even a week, you're probably gonna spend about $500-$600 if you're really frugal, right? It's about almost the same price. Plus you can stay longer and the food's cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's like when you compare apples to apples, because like even if you go to like I think one big part that sometimes people don't consider, even if the price of getting there is the same. Once you're there, your experience and what you can actually do is going to be greatly impacted by how expensive the how far your currency goes. When you go to the States, our currency gets slashed.
Yeah, like when I went to Vegas with my wife to watch the Formula One race, it was so expensive. Not only just the tickets themselves were expensive, but like the stay was expensive. Going out to eat was expensive. If you eat at a hotel, it's even more expensive.
Well,
so and then plus, I think the minimum percentage for tips was like 20-25% because you're on the strip.
But weren't you telling me that they were stopping people from even standing there, like while walking?
Oh yeah. Well, that's for the race. That's for the race,
I'm like, they're charging you can't even walk.
No. So they blocked out all the all the overpasses, so you can't see the race.
No, nothing's free.
But point being is like traveling in North America, it's expensive because like we have this idea when you live in the U.S. that you have like money. It's like the biggest market on the planet. People just assume that you have spending power. I think that's one of the perceptions that people have, and. Like another thing is, like I said before, and even in my previous episodes, like the cost of import into these countries in North America have increased, right? So that goes into the cost of everything. And then for someone who's living in America, making American wages, or in Canada making Canadian wages, it's much better. Your dollar goes so much further in cheaper countries like Japan, China, Korea, even like in Vietnam and Thailand, things like that. And even in Europe, you can have a way better time for longer. So when you compare the two, like why stay in North America?
Yeah, like I think even WestJet, I saw like recently that I think they were trying to get like $200 flights to like Italy.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so
but to go to Toronto is like $600 at times. Like
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, it's crazy. So, it's crazy.
So the industry is actually doing itself a disfavor. Us consumers are bringing our money outside of the country to spend, to semi-invest in other countries, tourism, where we should be spending it here at home, helping our economy. But the industry is not doing anything to kind of help with that, with these prices that we're paying.
Yeah, I think it's like a multifaceted issue. Like I know there's like obviously a lot of like factors that go into it, but yeah, it still doesn't change the result, right? Like I think it's like, if you want to have a good time, I would say you're kind of gonna you're gonna go somewhere else, right?
Like take Vancouver for example. You spend $300 a night to stay at a hotel that's mid-tier, and then you go out to eat, you pay 12% tax, right? And then tips on top of that, because you do pay tips on the tax too. Just so you know, they don't show you next time you look at your bill. The tips are including, like the taxes are included in the calculation for the tips. Like for a meal that's $50, you end up paying like $80. So that's what deters people from traveling within North America.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I even wanted to go to Victoria recently, and since I was going to Vancouver, because I've never been to Victoria, I hear it's very beautiful out there.
Yeah.
But then I was like, ferry costs. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Then it costs more for accommodation in Victoria. I'm like,
just because the space is so small. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like it's a little tough. I think it's tough, and I can understand why people feel the squeeze. Like the person is saying, like I'm just accumulating vacation.
Yeah.
I understand why people are feeling the squeeze, especially if they haven't, like thankfully I would say through friends or being a little younger, you might be able to meet people who are like kind of like opening you up to these experiences, like, oh, you can go here or check this out. But if you maybe came from a generation where you don't have maybe access to the people who have been there, you might not feel as comfortable to go there either, right?
Then that brings us to the next question. What do we think is going to happen in the industry in response to this, right? Because we obviously want to bring tourism back. There are many associations lobbying to do this, to bring tourism back by bring a lot of events like music events, concerts, like shows to these cities so that, to bring more people in. But what else do we anticipate that will happen is I think they might start to look in the same direction as the airlines. They might start to unbundle what you get in a hotel room, right? Like obviously you include the essentials like sheets, your towels and things like that. But what if you want more? Like they're already starting to do this, right? You already have to pay for water in some of the hotels we go to. You have to pay for the coffees that you use. But how much further will they go with the unbundling, right? Let's say they started selling you 300 thread count sheets versus 180.
Well, I don't think they'll do that. I think more realistically, I would say it's probably
king bed.
It's probably the housekeeping, how frequent you're going to be housekeeping.
Well, they're already doing that, right? But right now they're not charging you for it.
No, but I could see basically they would say like, oh, you're going to get housekeeping like twice a week.
Yeah.
And then like after that, I imagine like, oh, if you want one, it's gonna be like
you're gonna pay for
like $25.
Yeah, like $50.
Yeah, like I could see that happening.
Yeah, I can see that too. And like I said, they might start charging you. I mean, right now to get a king bed or 2 queens, they're kind of equivalent in most places. You can request for a 2 queen or 1 king for the same price. But that might change now.
Yeah, I can see that definitely.
If you're traveling as a couple, you don't want to sleep in 2 separate beds. That's an opportunity for them to charge you.
But industry-wise, I think maybe we also might see like you're saying associations and tourism are trying to make change. So I think that's why you see people like, or even us, like in Calgary, we have the change with the new stadium being built, even though it wasn't a great deal. It was a good deal. I think people are so inclined to try and get more events that they're almost willing to do anything for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think you're going to see more situations where people are going to try and find ways to bring either maybe more teams or more talent to come out here, right? And I think that's kind of how people are going to find ways to try and make entertainment more viable so that they can at least explain these changes.
Those value-added services, right?
Exactly. Right now we only have Stampede, right? During Stampede, the prices go way up.
Yeah. So, if on that point, if I were smart, right, or if I were an independent operator, or if I own, I know a lot of Airbnbers do this. They would bundle value-added services, right? For example, Stampede. I can include it in your booking that you pay, let's say, $40 more, right? But I could include a rodeo ticket. In your booking, right? So that added service, it might cost me less than $40 to get it, or whatever room rate that you pay. But then you get that extra. You don't have to wait in line to get it. You don't have to worry about it. I've been talking to some of my Airbnb friends that they're thinking about including private chefs for longer stays, right? They're including car rentals. I'm talking about like luxurious car rentals and things like that. So I think the industry can look into that direction to kind of bring the value back up if people were to pay that high price.
Well, especially if there's like a big conference or something, or even like another one that we've met people who do like basically like the bus. So like you might be able to like have bus times from like because other places do a lot of these things. Like the hotel knows that they have a big conference that obviously a majority of the people coming at the time are staying for. So they might have a bus that'll take you to the conference. So I could imagine people having like, we have a bus that will take you to Stampede that will like come and go like 2 or 3 times. And there's companies that do this already. So I could definitely see them like trying to enrich the experience by adding more more things like that. Yeah, right?
It's definitely a good direction that they could take if I were an operator, right? So that pretty much brings us close to the end of this episode. We do have somewhere to be. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you had just as much fun as William and I had bringing this out to you.
Yeah.
Like I said, All She's Given is a show where we talk about the industry, the hotel industry, unfiltered, 100%. And we'll also bring you our personal experience from building a business and just being a supplier in this industry. And yeah, we always have so much fun.
Yeah, and also let us know if you ever have any of your own experiences. You always like to hear about what people are doing, where people are going. What was your travel experience like? Do you have a secret place that you go to that you find that the things are still cheap?
Yeah.
We would like to know. People would like to know. So follow along, leave a comment if you feel like it, and we hope you catch us on the next one.
Yeah. See you next time. Thank you.